Hey guys, I just finished my work today on a software job. It's pretty sweet. I'm really starting to enjoy it. I'm glad things have come together as they have. And I've also felt like making videos a lot recently. Because I guess, once I'm out of here, I won't be able to make videos, at least about this school anymore. Although I think I'm going to start a new channel and just kind of work on it, talking about software and stuff. Anyways, so I want to talk about ESL in Japan. I don't think I've put up any videos about it. Um, and it's one of those things that you've either experienced and you know about, or you haven't and you don't, like anything, right? Back in the States, it's pretty unusual for anyone to learn a second language. Most people, if they do know a second language, it's because either one or both of their parents are from a different country, or in rare cases, maybe they've lived abroad somewhere, or they use it for work or something. But most people, I think that the biggest second language in the U.S. is Spanish, right? It's because Mexico is right below the border. Um, Anyways, so as a native English speaker, it's quite difficult to understand what the process of learning English is like, or how to teach it. And so when you hear ESL, you tend to have this image of students working really hard, and like you're having conversations with them and they're asking really detailed questions and working really hard on learning the language and trying to get to be fluent. And the reality is that's actually pretty rare. And that's something that kind of surprises / disappoints people when they get started in the industry, is that the majority of students really aren't that interested in English, and they're also like insanely busy with their Japanese schoolwork. On top of that, in Eikaiwa especially, the majority of your students are going to be coming after school when they've already had a full day of study. They've been up already for 9-10 hours, and now they're going to spend an hour or so with you, and they're already starting off on the wrong foot because they're just knackered, as they say in British English. And then on top of that is the fact that English is almost the polar opposite of Japanese. It's unbelievably different, and so both sides, native English speakers very often struggle to learn Japanese. The majority of them, in my experience, give up. They learn like how to say thank you or maybe order a beer, but it's rare. It's rare for them to really penetrate in to the language. But those that do and stay long term, they almost always across the board have a much more fulfilling, interesting life. Naturally, you can talk to people. So those elements. Not a lot of your students are going to be interested in English. A lot of them are going to be already kind of spent by the time they get to your class, unless it's a Saturday morning or something. Saturdays are always easier teaching kids. And then the languages are exceedingly different from each other, and so that makes it exceedingly difficult for a native speaker of one to learn the other. So those three elements are the biggest that work against you. Because of that, the lesson content is usually like way simpler than you'd likely imagine. I remember before I came over here, I was imagining myself like at the head of this classroom, and the kids are all like at their desks looking at me, just kind of walking around explaining things, and they were like, okay, taking notes and asking, hey, Mr. Murzo, what about, but it's not like that. It is what it is, it's not, and also, I suppose a fourth element that makes kind of pops the bubble is that very few people in Japan really have a need for English. If you can imagine in America, how many people have a need for Japanese or a need for German or French? Very few. And even if there is plenty of opportunity to use Spanish in the States, how many people do you know that go out and learn it? So it's just one of those things. That said, you will be dealing over 95, probably closer to 99% of your students will remain at a very low level indefinitely compared to your level. If you go for some certification in ESL or try to major in it in university, you'll likely get into some very advanced concepts about the English language and teaching techniques and grammar and syntax. And I studied a bit of kind of more technical English. And it is amazing. English is it's an amazing, very rich, beautiful language. But the fact is, when you come to ESL in Japan, you're going to be dealing with super simple stuff. Like we're talking this, that, these, those, is, RM, do, doesn't, and it's not nothing, but is that okay to say it's not nothing? But it's not exactly the most intellectually challenging content in the world either. So it's a great experience for a year, so you can really have a pretty good life by Japanese standards, getting paid to teach your own language to people. And most schools will set you up with, if you're coming from abroad, they'll set you up with a house, or some type of living situation. It's normally a tiny little apartment, but it's cool if you're single and young, They'll may or may not give you training. I would suggest you go for a position that does give you training, just to have some idea what to do in the classroom, because it can be very awkward if you don't have any experience and they're like, okay, there's a student, or students, go teach them for an hour. That it initially takes a while to get up to speed, and then kind of find your flow and make the time pass comfortably for the students. And it can also be difficult to make the lessons not too easy or not too difficult, and kind of find the middle ground. It's just one of those things that just comes with time. But some initial training can definitely help you. Although, again, the training will probably take you into levels of the language that you probably won't be dealing with your students. So there's that. It's just how it is. It can be fun. I've had some really amazing people as students before, actually. And I've worked with just such sweet, amazing kids. Like, that's one of the things you really learn to appreciate. It's just like how pure and kind and fun kids are. They love to laugh. So that can be very rewarding. But if you really feel like, oh, I really want to be involved in ESL, and it's my dream, I would, at the very least, I would recommend, if you can swing it, you can maybe if you don't have a degree yet, you can maybe try to find a way to teach ESL at your school if you're a university student, even just volunteering. If you do have a degree and you're thinking of making a career change or something like that, I would really strongly suggest you come to Japan for a year and teach English, or go to any country that will hire you, and just try it out to see if it really is something you enjoy, because the percentage of people who enjoy it and don't enjoy it is pretty striking, the ratio there, I should say. So you just kind of want to be careful, and if you really do in the end, you feel, oh, this is amazing, I think it would be a good idea to try to get a position working at an actual international school instead of eikaiwa. I had no idea when I came to Japan what the industry was like, and what my job would be like, really even what my new hometown, my new city would be like. And so I kind of just was like, okay, get a job, and I didn't plan very well at all. Things worked out, definitely, but as far as choosing what I wanted to do and studying and then doing it, that happened way down the road, kind of by default. I ended up in software development somewhat later in life than I would have liked, but hey, what are you gonna do? Where was I going with this? So yeah, ESL, it's there, it's an industry. But it may not be what you expect, and it would be a very good idea for yourself to get a little familiarity with it and learn about what it's actually like. I think if you're the type, if you really enjoy planning things, and especially making things, like making worksheets or flashcards or designing activities and trying to mix things up and engage kids with really physical, colorful songs and stuff like that, you would probably like ESL teaching. In my experience, the best ESL teachers have been like that. They're like the kid in grade school, or usually it was a girl who was just always making little crafts and had the best Halloween costume and liked these nerdy games and stuff. That type of personality, and that's great. The world needs people like that. But it's good you should know who you are and how the industry is before you just jump right into it. Because if you do it long term, you know, you can reach a point where your opportunities become fewer. And I've seen people struggle with that over here, and it's not pretty. The majority of teachers in the industry come over at a pretty young age, usually within a year or two of university, and then they go back when they're still pretty young. Like, I don't know. I would say like most ESL teachers in Japan are probably between like 22 and 30. And then there's like an older group that are people who have decided to stay here and started families. And they go all over the place. You know, you see them running their own schools, working at universities, maybe starting a restaurant or making a completely different change like I have and going into a different, down a different career path altogether that doesn't really have anything to do with Japan. But those are the ones who have usually been through a lot and have resolved to stay here long term. So if you don't want to stay here long term, there's no harm at all. Just come try ESL out and then go back home. But remember, it's your life. You should be doing something that you enjoy, that matches your personality, that when you wake up in the morning, you feel good about being involved with it. You want to continue doing. That may or may not be ESL. So, some thoughts. All right, cool.